Hey everyone, welcome to week 30, day 3. This is Wednesday. This is our ongoing drawing in painting week, the role of drawing within my painting practice. So we're trying to define one aspect of drawing. And on Monday, we defined it as a reminder, drawing as reminder. And yesterday, for Spanish Tuesday, we defined it as drawing as source of courage. So Wednesday, today, we'll see, how we can interpret that aspect of drawing. Okay, let's get started. Now, this is our third day on our ongoing drawing in painting week, and it's better to describe it as drawing within my painting practice. As a shorthand, drawing in painting. But what we're trying to do, basically, is to, with every day of the week, try and define drawing as something that can aid us in our picture making. We're trying to identify and to emphasize one aspect of drawing, and hopefully, this is my hope, because this is very tough, it shows up in every single one of these paintings that we're going to do during this week. So on Monday's painting, we tried to define drawing as reminder. Now, what that means is that drawing is there to just kind of nudge us in the right direction. It is a note that is trying to tell us, hey, remember what you liked about what you originally saw and try to uphold those very things that moved you. Try to be faithful to the nature of the things that you were attracted to. Keeping our concentration when we are doing a painting is something that's very, very tough. We are constantly bombarded by things that grab our attention, and they try to lead us elsewhere. A lot of times the act of painting is not really about how talented we are. It's not really about the ability that we possess. It's about how focused we can be. I've noticed, and this has been a very important aspect of my path in picture making, that I actually enjoy those moments where I have to sit down and enter into this very, very high focused mode. And it doesn't mean that while you are in this very high focused state, then the outcome has to be extremely precious. No. It actually means that every decision that you are making has a very, very special weight. And it has a weight to it because you are taking responsibility for your actions. You are actually trying to interpret through paint your sensibility. And you have to be so in tune with who you are, with how your perception is shaped, with the biases that you possess, that every single time you put a brushstroke down, it doesn't mean that you're just trying to paint what you're looking. It means that you're examining yourself constantly. And because you are in this act of self-examination, then the span of the act of painting, whatever that may be, it could be half an hour, it could be 2 hours, it could be 6 hours, it could be an hour, a week. It doesn't matter. That allotted time that you are granting yourself is a moment where you're going to deeply learn about yourself. So it's not hyperbolic to say that drawing plays a significant role when we are trying to learn about ourselves, when we are trying to go down this path of self-recognition, because drawing is this very powerful tool that we can use in order to try and make sense of that first encounter. The notes that we put down with drawing, they're there to tell us, hey, this is how you felt. This is how you really felt about something. This is how deeply it impacted you. When we're painting, sometimes we change focus so much, we shift gears so much, that we tend to forget the reason why we started painting in the first place. And drawing, I believe, can be just this perfect little lighthouse that is telling us, hey, you're veering off, you're going in a wrong direction. I know that all these little pesky details are very, very attractive, but come on, get back on track. This is what you originally wanted to say. This is what originally moved you, because sometimes we don't really know what we want to say at the beginning of a painting. But what we can do is recognize what interested us, what moved us in the first place. So drawing is there to just tell us, hey, you put these notes down, you scribbled all these things, you wrote all these things down that are telling you this painting was supposed to be about this. honor that. Remember to honor that. So that is drawing as a reminder. I really feel it's a very, very powerful part of drawing. Yesterday for Spanish Tuesdays, we try to understand drawing as a source of courage. Now, this one is actually quite fascinating too. The idea behind it being a source of courage, this fountain of strength, is that the act of painting sometimes can be almost like a leap of faith, where you kind of know where your painting is headed, but you can't really, 100% visualize like a finished painting in your head. If you could, and you could just wish your painting to life, just will it to life, then the act of painting would be kind of pointless. But the reality is that there is a space, sometimes it's a precipice, between thought and execution, between the painting that we envision and the actual painting that we can paint. If we can prepare ourselves, if we can kind of arm ourselves with all the necessary information that we need prior to attacking this painting, then we are probably going to be at our best shape, and we're going to give ourselves the best shot to try and bridge that gap between idea and execution. So for me, I understood it yesterday as a source of courage because when I was drawing this pose of Danny, she had so much character. There was so much beautiful character in the pose that she was taking that I even got, I don't know if I would say sidetracked, because in yesterday's painting, if I can be completely honest, I really didn't know where I was going to go with it. And I loved that it turned into like this Bay Area, Deben Cornish, kind of like color abstract painting because I wasn't anticipating it. I didn't know that this was the painting that was going to come out. And I think it was very, very clear to me that this was going to be a painting that was going to head that way when I had worked so hard, and it is hard work to try and define all the structure and character in that little head because it did have a ton of character, and I was completely attracted to it. I always loved to paint Danny. I think she holds like incredible power in her expression, and I thought, okay, this is going to be another one of those paintings of Danny where I just tried to get a hold of who she is and how she expresses herself, in these situations and just the widest range of emotions that she can convey with just a look. And I was like, yes, I'm going to paint that because I obviously enjoy doing that. But for some reason, and this was weird, for some reason, I was like, well, what I like about that painting of Danny is just this little kind of stream of light that is going from the tip of her nose down to her lower lip and then to her chin. And that's about it. Like, I love that. I love that condition. Everything else is just this atmosphere of shadow. And it was kind of weird because you come to terms with yourself, because I was looking at the drawing and I was acknowledging that I had worked really hard at making that drawing. But I told myself, you worked hard, but the answer lies elsewhere. And it doesn't mean, and this is the coolest part, that all the hard work you've put into that initial drawing is now pointless. It's not like this drawing is worthless because you are going to take your painting somewhere else. No, it's actually completely the opposite. Everything that you did with that drawing was preparing you to then have the courage to attack this painting. Every single stroke you put down, every single reflection that you did on structure, on anatomy, on character, on composition, on design, all of those things. Every time you thought about something and tried to solve it through drawing, even though the painting was not going to be about that drawing, even though there may be no hint of that drawing in your final painting, it doesn't matter. That was absolutely essential to the painting process. I would have never, ever covered that head with all these kind of free-floating colors the way I did, which ended up being like this abstract shape of color, which I love. I actually love yesterday's painting. It sounds weird, and I do have very personal reasons for saying this, but I think it's one of my favorite paintings of all this project. The reason is quite simple. I mean, people could just say, oh, you had a drawing and you painted on top of it. That, what's the big deal? But the most minuscule act can sometimes take an enormous amount of courage. And for me, just realizing that, yes, I had worked hard. Yes, it was very beautiful because I thought it was beautiful, but very beautiful, the character of the drawing that was underneath. I told myself, you have to cover it up. You have to let it go and cover it up and just take this elsewhere and just begin this kind of new trip with your painting. That's what drawing did for me. I would have never, again, and I want to stress this, I would have never had that strength, that courage to do it, to say, I know I can take this painting elsewhere if I hadn't done that drawing. So that to me is an insanely important aspect of drawing. The fact that it can just build your confidence and can tell you, okay, you're ready for this. It may mean that you have to be super careful and super sensitive with the decisions that you're going to make within your painting. You know, you have to respect that drawing. Or maybe, like yesterday, it means that you completely obliterate it because it wasn't there to be this constraining parameter. It was there to just provide you with the strength that you needed to go further. Drawing as a reminder on Monday, drawing as source of courage on Tuesday, and today, I think this one's a little bit easier for me because it speaks about the development of the painting. And what I mean by that is that usually, I mean, this is by no means the way all paintings should be painted. But usually, when we start a painting, we go, you guys have probably heard it, but we go from big to small. We block in and then we concentrate on details. We try to have a general idea of our image, and then we speak about the smaller parts that make up that image. But the way we usually go about it is that we sometimes establish the bigness, the wholeness of an image, just so that we have a firm grasp and we can gauge if the bigger qualities of our image are holding it together, are keeping it together, and if we are able to communicate the message that we want to communicate with those big ideas. Usually, if those big ideas are off, then our whole painting is going to be off too. We're not going to be able to communicate with efficacy what we wanted to say. That's one of the reasons that we go from big to small. And it's almost against the natural way of seeing because we human beings just absolutely adore detail. We hone in on the smallest bits of information. So for us to teach ourselves how to look at the broader aspects of an image is something that's very, very hard to do. And usually, what we do in art education is to train our brain and our eyes and our perception to kind of step back and be able to consume the whole image, to see the wholeness of the image. Because the strength, the very, very powerful ability that an image has to communicate comes from the bigger ideas coming through. So those have to come first. Those are the pillars onto which we build our images. But that doesn't mean that we can't then, or that it is wrong to go for smaller parts, to go for details. It's super enjoyable in a painting to block something in and to then say, oh, but I love this little moment and I want to concentrate a little bit on it. The role of drawing in this particular painting is drawing as focus. It kind of started as the drawing that we did for Tuesday, which was very, very structured. It wasn't like a very deep examination of form and how all the planes in the portrait turn. It wasn't that thorough, but I think the bigger planes were there, the character was there. Everything that I needed to go further was in that original drawing. And what I wanted to do with this one specifically was just pay a little more attention to the information that I had gathered through drawing in that initial stage. Yesterday's painting, we just completely painted over it. No, today we were going to be a little more careful. The thing is, painting has this thing where even if you're careful, sometimes you can't replicate because they are two very different natures. The character that a couple of lines can have with a couple of brushstrokes, they speak about very, very different things. So sometimes we can have this insanely powerful drawing that's underneath with a couple of lines with just, these very beautiful sensitive marks. And we have to try and preserve that same character but translate it through paint, which is very awkward and very hard. And many times we start a painting and the painting can be fine. The painting process can be okay, but you lose stuff. You kind of get lost in the weeds and you say, well, what happened with my drawing? So I've referred to what I do with my rigger brush as a second instance of drawing. It's like giving yourself a second chance. It's like, okay, I had something, I painted over it, I think the painting is fine, but I lost something. There was something beautiful about that drawing, about those marks that now is not really present anymore in the painting. The painting can be sensitive, it can be sensible, it can be well painted, but it's speaking differently. So what I do in those moments is say, I lost a little bit of that. Let me see if I can get some of that back. And I try to attack, but in a very measured way, my painting with a tool that provides me the ability to say, I'm going to draw on top of it. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. It's as if you had like a block in and you just want to recapture your drawing, that initial stage of drawing once again. And I did that. And I actually thought, well, I have this painting at a kind of nice balance of it having the presence of that initial drawing, then moments of that initial block into, then moments where the painting was a little bit developed, then moments where I called upon drawing once again with my rigger brush. And then I thought, okay, I'm done. But the thing with this painting, and it doesn't happen often, it's happened a few times. I can think of maybe another one or maybe two more during this year where I just look at a painting and I tell Danny, I don't know, I'm just not happy with it. I just don't like it. So what you guys are going to see at some point is that we kind of switch a little bit of the perspective of the video. It kind of shifts a little bit because I actually wanted to repaint this painting. I wanted to take it a little bit further because I wasn't very happy. I was looking at this painting, I was trying to find like a balance where there's a little bit of drawing, a little bit of blocking, then painting, then drawing back again. But it just felt very empty. Now, the feeling of emptiness has nothing to do with the fact that there's almost like same value and almost like same hue to the background just kind of flooding in and embracing Danny's portrait. It had nothing to do with that. I know she has this huge bow on her head, which is a shape that I had to solve in some way. And initially I thought, well, I'm just going to leave it open. But then I said, no, I have to attack that shape. I actually have to solve it, and I have to solve this space. I think it's going to make for a more powerful painting. And the thing is, there was something with the eyes that was bothering me, and I can block in an eye with just brush strokes. I could do that. But there's something very nice when, for me, I just sit down and say, no, let me see if I can try and find through drawing the character of the eyes that I'm looking for. Because I actually don't really think that eyes, and that's probably why I hate when people just focus in on the eyes. I don't think I'm good at painting eyes for some reason. I avoid painting eyes many, many times because I think they're like a hindrance. I really feel that many times they're just this kind of like annoying bit of detail that's in the eye socket. Many people will say, oh, it's all in the look and it's in the eyes. That's where the magic happens. To me, I'm like, I don't know. Give me an eye socket. I'll take an eye socket 99 out of 100 times instead of the eye. The actual drawing of the eye, the highlight on the eye, just the eyelashes. Ugh, those are annoying. And many times I just avoid doing them. But this was one of those times that I wanted to have a certain character, but I don't know. I thought it was there in the drawing. And then while I was painting it, it was gone. And then I thought, I had to try and fight and get them again. And it was nice. I think that in the end, it was kind of cool letting myself say, I'm going to try to go for those details. I'm going to give that nose a little bit more structure. So I'm going to have the center point of that portrait be structured, and then everything else just kind of dissolves outward. And I have to solve that that bow, that hideous bow that is absolutely horrible, but it's wonderful to paint. In many ways, I was happy. I was happy because many times I try to turn the page and say, you know what? I did the best I could with the painting. Let's just think about tomorrow and think about a new painting. That's the way we keep moving onward and forward, and we don't dwell on the past, and we don't just say, no, I can do it better, I can do it better. Because when we think that way, sometimes that's when a single painting can be painted for years. And it doesn't mean it's going to be the greatest painting of our life. Like, that's not how it works. Sometimes we're better off just leaving something behind and saying, I think you're done. I think this is as good as I can paint it. And perhaps you're going to paint over that painting, or you're going to throw that painting away, or you just sell it for less. It doesn't matter. Like, the road that painting takes, that is up to each one of us. But I really think that it is very important to just keep pushing forward. But for this painting in particular, I thought, I have to go back. I have to go back. And that's why I understood that the aspect of drawing that was most important was focus. I had to focus in on the things that were relevant to the painting. I had to focus again on what was relevant about the image. What was it that I liked about it, and why did I think that it had escaped me while I was painting? It's that opportunity that drawing gives you to say, okay, you can change gears a little bit now, you can change tempo and say, where do you want to stop? What are those moments that you want to further develop? Where do you want to concentrate on? Just as a recap, so we've had drawing as a reminder on Monday. We had drawing as source of courage on Tuesday. And today we had drawing as focus. Tomorrow we're going to explore a different aspect of drawing. And hopefully it's one that will show up while we're painting. I'm hoping that these characteristics of drawing are present in the painting that I'm painting, and that my words and me trying to fumble through an explanation is actually helping you guys to identify those properties within the painting that I've just painted. So join us tomorrow, where we try to depict one of the ways in which we can understand the role of drawing within painting. So thank you guys for hanging out. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.